heads around his influence, we've got to start with this kind of paradox, and it's captured perfectly in this little piece called One Solitary Life. And this line from the poem just nails it. I mean, think about it. When we think of greatness today, what comes to mind, right? It's usually wealth, power, fame. But him, he did, well, none of that. He didn't write books, never ran for office. He didn't even travel that much. Let's really put this side by side. On one hand, you've got what we typically call greatness, leading armies, holding office, getting rich, stacking up degrees. And on the other hand, you have his life. It's the total opposite. I mean, in a world that's all about resumes and titles, his only credential was, well, himself. And yet, here we are, 20 centuries later, and his impact hasn't just stuck around, it has grown to a scale that's honestly, it's kind of hard to even wrap your mind around. And this is where the poem really lands the punch. The conclusion is just staggering. It says that if you took all the armies that ever marched, all the kings that ever reigned, and put their influence all together, it still wouldn't touch the effect of this one solitary life, a life that had none of that worldly power. So that's the big question, right? That's what we're really digging into here. How did one man with absolutely zero worldly power end up becoming maybe the most influential figure in all of human history? What was the secret? Okay, so according to the source material, the historical accounts we find in the Gospels, there's actually a really clear answer. And it all boils down to his main identity. Above everything else, he was a teacher. And if you look closely at passages like this one, there's a really important clue. It's subtle, but it's everything. Notice the order of the words. His work is consistently described as teaching, then preaching, and then healing. Teaching is always listed first. That's not an accident. In that right there, that flips a super common perception on its head. A lot of us think of him as this miracle worker who, also did some teaching on the side. But the Gospels frame it the other way around. He was a teacher whose message was backed up by these amazing miracles. The teaching was the mission. And it wasn't just what he was teaching, it was how he taught it. See, the religious teachers of his day, the scribes, they would just quote other famous rabbis. It was all he said, she said. But Jesus spoke with this directness, this authority that just blew people away. And that's what made everyone stop and really listen. Okay, so if he was first and foremost a teacher, that brings up the next big question, doesn't it? What was he actually teaching? What were his main themes? Well, when you look at all of his teachings together, the source material shows that they really circle around three huge interconnected ideas. So let's break them down one by one. All right, and the first one, this is where his teaching gets, well, really unique. Think about it. No other great prophet or philosopher in history made themselves the main topic of their teaching. But for Jesus, that was subject number one. His primary goal was to explain who he was, why he had come, and what it meant for literally everyone. And one of the main ways he did this, you see this a lot in the Gospel of John, was through these really powerful I am statements. Like when he says, I am the bread of life. He's basically saying he is the source of all spiritual nourishment, the thing that truly sustains you. Or then he says, I am the light of the world, positioning himself as the one who guides us out of darkness and confusion. You can kind of see how each one of these statements builds on the one before it. And it all leads up to this incredibly famous all-in-one declaration. So look, the big takeaway here is really simple. You just couldn't separate the teacher from the teaching. They were one and the same. To get his message, you first had to get him. Now, his second huge theme was something he called the kingdom of God. And yeah, that sounds kind of abstract, right? So what he did was he taught about it using parables. These were just short, super memorable stories that used everyday stuff people would understand. So stories like the one about the sower or the hidden treasure, they weren't just cute little tales. Nope. Each one was like a key designed to unlock a different part of what this kingdom was all about. To his third major theme. I mean, it's a logical next step, right? If there's a kingdom, then how are the people in it supposed to live? And he gives the answer in what the source material calls his kingdom manifesto. You probably heard of it, the Sermon on the Mount. This was basically the blueprint, the owner's manual for the ethics and character of anyone who wanted to be a part of his kingdom. But here's the thing, His teaching wasn't just about giving these big public sermons to huge crowds. He also had another strategy, one that was way more focused and intense. And it was for a small, hand picked group of people. This was his plan for making sure the message lasted: discipleship. He knew he wasn't going to be around forever. So, to make sure his teachings didn't just disappear when he did, he poured everything he had into training a core group of 12 guys who could then carry the torch for him. And we're not talking about sitting in a classroom here, not at all. His training methods were totally immersive, hands on. It was learning by living, day in and day out. It involved everything from him just leading by example to asking these really tough questions to giving them practical things to do. And yeah, even calling them out and correcting them when they got it wrong. And this little story just illustrates his method perfectly. His disciples saw him praying and they could just tell there was something powerful happening. So what did they do? They came to him and said, "Lord, teach us how to do that." See, his example created the desire in them to learn. It was a pull, not a push. And that brings us right back to where we started, that whole paradox of the solitary life. This is how it gets resolved. His world changing influence didn't come from armies or money or political games. No, it came from the sheer power of his ideas and his incredible gift for teaching them, both to the huge crowds and to that small inner circle who would then go on to change the world with that message. So that really leaves us with a final thought, something to chew on. If a life that had zero, none, of the typical signs of success could end up having such a massive and lasting effect on all of humanity, it kind of forces you to ask a pretty big question, doesn't it? What is the true measure of a life's impact? Is it about what we get, or is it about what we give?
As we conclude this episode about the teachings of Jesus Christ, I want to leave you with this encouragement. If you want to know the real Jesus, you don't need to look for lost gospels or hidden secrets. He presented himself openly. The best way to know him is to engage with his teachings as they are plainly presented in the scriptures, and let him tell you, in his own words, who he is. In our upcoming session, we will build upon this foundation by exploring the miraculous works Jesus performed, the powerful deeds that confirmed his teachings and validated his identity. Thank you once again for tuning in.